Today's episode of Teammate Talks is don't confuse it. Because the fact of the matter is there's a lot of confusing things in the world. I mean, a lot of confusing things in the world. And one of the things that we do here, and we talk about here a lot, is character development, character building, building coping skills, and things along those lines. And fact of the matter is a lot of words associated with that are words that we learned through the example or the way that our parents use that word, which is kind of limiting. Because a lot of times we only use these words in ways that kind of show one small example, but don't paint the whole picture of what these coping mechanisms or character traits or skills, these are skills we're talking about, what they actually encompass. So a great example of that is our word of the week from this last week, which is respect, right? This is another one of those words that's kind of like patience, where if you go and you ask people, what does respect mean, you're going to get a variety of answers, a wide variety of answers. And many of them are right in one form or fashion, but they don't talk about the whole thing. And so one of the things I've noticed is there's a lot of adults out there, and I mean a lot of adults, who have a very limited idea of what respect is or what it means, And because of that, we're often passing on that limited idea to our children. Because when we talk about respect with our children as parents, we tend to say, you need to show me respect. You need to respect your elders. And we tend to use it in the term of the real word we mean is courtesy. What we really mean a lot of times when we're saying you need to respect this is you need to show courtesy. Now, courtesy is one way to show respect. I'm not saying those two things are mutually exclusive. Yes, I'm not saying those two things are mutually exclusive. However, it paints a very limiting picture that leads to adults with very distorted and odd, even at times, ways of viewing what respect means. I think the biggest confusion I often see is a lot of people confuse respect with admiration. Those are two completely different things. You can admire somebody and respect them because you admire them. However, respect does not necessarily mean that you admire somebody. You can respect something without admiring it in any way, shape, or form.
And you can respect something without liking it.
Without even liking it. I talked about this once a long time ago in regards to a very famous, I was talking about integrity, in regards to a very famous historical figure that is well hated, and here's the thing you have to understand is from their point of view, they were following, that. And it kind of comes to the same thing with respect. So the biggest thing I see is confusing respect with admiration. Those are two completely different things. Now, respect itself actually has several definitions, and we're not going to talk about the textbook definitions today. We're going to talk about the definitions that we like to use with different age groups to build a solid foundation of what is respect, what does it mean, and why is it important. So I'm going to let Miss Rose start with this one. She teaches our younger ones. What's your favorite way to explain or talk about respect?
So I teach our youngest, and then I also teach up through
the beginners.
To the beginners. So for our youngest ones, we talk about seeing the good in others and treating others how they want to be treated.
Right, so that's two different ones right there. Let's break those down for a second. Let's stop right there. So first up, you can respect anything if you can learn to see the good in it. And there are very few things that are outright bad. But for some reason, and this is particularly big in adults, we tend to be very just dual-minded. It's black and white. It's right or wrong. It's good or bad, And fact of the matter is the world, the universe is so much more complex than good and evil.
Oh, so much more.
So much more complex. And fact of the matter is I've been around long enough to see really great things in bad things. I've been around long enough to see really great things have bad consequences. I've seen all kinds of, not to quote the song, but there's a song called What It's Like that some of you guys my age would remember, What It's Like by Everlast, right? And it, there's a couple verses in that song about that, right?
Yeah.
I've seen what's that one word? I've seen a good man sin, I've seen a tough man cry, I've seen a loser win, I've seen a sad man grin, I've heard an honest man lie, right? Yeah, the world is so much more complex than that. So we're not going to get into copyright stuff for saying that, are we? Nah,
No,
surely
because
not.
We gave them credit.
Yeah, we gave credit. All right.
Yeah.
So, I got kind of lost on that. So, one aspect of respect is being able to look for the good in things. So, even if there is someone that you don't like or a situation that you don't like, you can look at, was there something or is there something good in it? For example, a situation that we don't like, a bad or unpreferred situation in our life, right? I don't like to think of things as good and bad. I like to think of things as things I prefer, things I don't prefer, because bad things can be good and good things can be bad. Like, it just kind of depends. And a lot of these things that people label as bad are often the things that teach us who we really are, that teach us some kind of lesson or show us either a weakness or strength inside of ourselves if we're willing to pay attention to that. And those things can help us get to know ourselves much, much better, right? Like, we spend more time with ourselves than anyone else in our entire life. And so getting to know ourselves, I think, is very important. So, yeah, looking for the good in things, that can go hand in hand with the admiration thing, right? So that one is one where it might go hand in hand with admiration. But looking for the good is a good place to start. Now, Ms. Rose mentioned the second one.
Treating others how they want to be treated.
Treating others how they want to be treated. And this goes to the courtesy one. So this is a more common definition that people get the idea of, mostly because of how we explain it as parents. We talk about treat me with respect, treat your elders with respect, treat your teachers with respect, and that gets treat your friends with respect, and that gets taken as courtesy. So this is where respect does overlap with courtesy a little bit, right? But I take that a step farther. It's not always treating others how they want to be treated. Sometimes it's treating others how they need to be treated, right? As a parent, when I talk as adults, right, we can't always treat our kids the way they want to be treated. But we can respect our kids by treating them the way they need to be treated, by guiding them in the way that they need to be guided in that moment, right? So, for example, we talk about kids wanting to quit things, and often that comes, I did this in our last podcast, and often that comes down to they get corrected on something they're not doing right, and then on the way home, parents add to that correction instead of playing the support role. And fact of the matter is if we're going to be showing respect to our kids, we need to be playing the role that they need. They already have someone doing the correction. What they need is someone doing the support. So that is one example of treating kids the way they need to be treated for a certain thing. Another one is dealing out consequences. Sometimes that's going to happen. And obviously dealing out consequences has nothing to do with courtesy. So this is where you start to see respect gets muddled a little bit. It's not all about admiration and courtesy. It's not about that, right? It's also about being who you need to be for the person in front of you in that moment a lot of times. So, yeah, those are a couple of good examples.
Yes, and I had one more that I talk about more with my older ones.
Okay.
And that is that respect, trust and respect are different things.
They are.
And
they can lend to each other.
They can.
But they are different things.
They can. And so I personally don't like people say you have to earn my respect, because to me that means I have to earn the right to be treated like a human being.
Right. That's
and
stupid.
Nobody should ever beg to have to be treated with kindness and courtesy and compassion and be given focus. So don't make someone earn the right to be treated like a human. Make them earn your trust.
And now you're getting into what I talk about on the level 2 and 3 floor. Like, I get pretty in depth.
I set the foundation for you.
Yeah, I get pretty in depth in that one in the level 2 and 3 floor, because I constantly hear people say, well, they have to earn my respect. And fact of the matter is, the only people that should ever have to earn your respect are people that previously lost your respect. In all, you're not going to get respect yourself until you give respect a little bit. So thinking that other people all have to earn your respect, well, they're not going to give you that respect or any of that kind of thing unless you first show respect to them. So the idea is a baseline level of respect that you show to anybody and everybody, whether you like them or not. Now, if they go really underhanded at you, they could lose your respect. But losing your respect doesn't mean that you then turn into a complete monster towards them. It just means that maybe you separate them from your life a little bit until they either figure it out, or basically it just comes down to cutting out the toxicity, right? So, it's not about, like, I can still treat someone with respect and at the same time go, okay, you broke my trust, you kind of lost my respect a little bit, but I'm not going to be mean. I'm still going to treat you with some amount of respect, but I'm also not going to trust you as much, and I'm not going to spend as much time with you. I'm going to cut you out of my life a little bit. Hopefully you learn your lesson, and to not treat me like that, and to treat me with the same amount of respect that I treat you. And that's the thing. If you want to know how to get people to treat you with the kind of respect you want to be treated with, you have to learn first what that is, and second, how to show that kind of respect to other people. because the rule of reciprocity, this is a psychological principle that rules not just humans, by the way. We have learned that that we've seen this in mice, cats, dogs, all kinds of other animals. The rule of reciprocity, you will have an urge to give the energy that you are being given. And so if you treat someone with respect, they might not always treat you with respect back, but it triggers that psychological reciprocity where they're like, oh, if this person's treating me with respect and being nice to me, then I should treat them back with respect and being nice to me. Now, once again, I don't want you to confuse that with courtesy, because sometimes treating a person with respect is not courtesy. Sometimes treating a person with respect means a brutal honesty. Sometimes treating a person with respect, sometimes, I mean, you can be tactful about it, but sometimes treating a person with respect means being upfront. Sometimes treating a person with respect, okay, I'm an employer. I like to treat my employees with respect. You know what that means? That means giving them the freedom to do their job. That means not micromanaging them and telling them exactly what they have to do every second of every day. That means giving them a framework to learn how to do what they do really, really well, and then giving the opportunity to expand on that framework, right? And another one, showing respect to your employees, is being upfront, open, and honest about what you expect from them and about their mistakes. And giving
Not
them
always pretty.
and giving them an opportunity to fix those mistakes. That is also a part of respect, and that doesn't always go hand in hand with courtesy. But out of respect, you're an employee, right? Should I A, let you go making the mistakes until I can't take it anymore, it's detrimental to the business and have to fire you, right? B,
That wouldn't be good for
that wouldn't be good for anybody, right? So that would be ignoring the problem.
Yeah.
B, be a complete jerk to you about it till you feel completely awful, this, that, and the other, and then you're unable to necessarily do your job at your best level because you're upset and begin to get anxious and second guess everything you think from there on out. Again, not helpful. I've made that mistake. Or C, right? I can come to you respectfully. I can say, hey, I respect this work you're doing. I can compliment something you're doing. And I say, but we also have this problem, right? We could have done this better. Here's some ways we could have done it better. This is the line. Like anything above this line of standard, you have full freedom to do whatever you want. But anything that you do that steeps below this standard line that we need, I'm going to come and I'm going to say this isn't up to par. We need to get it up to par. These are ways we can get it up to par, right? You have the freedom to do what you need to do to get it up to par if you have better ideas. But if we can't get it up to par, then we're going to have to part. We're going to have to part because if we're below that line, then we're not doing each other any good. If you're going to stay below that line and not let me help you get above that line, or if you're just going to be constantly upset and not try to get yourself above that line, then we need to go ahead and part now. Because our mission, our goal here is to help people learn coping mechanisms, to help people learn confidence, to help people be the best of themselves they can be. And if you're not going to get above this standard line and stay there, or every time you dip down, I'm going to show you the respect of not ignoring it, not being a jerk to you. I'm going to come to you and I'm going to be like, okay, well, here's what we're dealing with. And if you can't get this fixed by this certain amount of time, then we're going to have to part ways because maybe this isn't the best thing for you to be doing. Maybe this isn't the best job for you. Maybe this isn't the best career for you, right? And that doesn't seem like courtesy. It's not going to feel like a courtesy, but it is respect.
It depends on your mindset, and everyone's mindset's a little different each day. But what they need is more important
right.
than.
And especially if you're nice about it, tactful about it. It's respecting them in the sense of I'm going to treat them like a human being, and I'm going to let them know their mistake, let them know where we need to be, and give them a way to get there. And give them plenty of time to get there, right? And then give a consequence. This is how you handle this respectfully, right? Or like when we first started the studio, we used to have a ton of people come to us and they'd want extras, they'd want bonuses, they'd want a bunch of freebies because we're known for giving. We're known for doing a lot of free things. But a lot of these people often stepped on our toes so many times that we had to learn to give ourselves some respect of putting some framework in place so that we wouldn't get so easily taken advantage of. And that's not necessarily a courtesy. So this is where you see respect pulls away from courtesy a little bit. A good example from that, I remember the first person that we ever gave financial assistance to, because we do have a financial assistance program. First person we ever gave financial assistance to, we got this big sob story, this whole thing, we felt really bad. We only charged them, I think, half of what our actual monthly thing was at the time.
Yeah.
And then their third or fourth class, they pulled up in a 2-year-old Cadillac Escalade. And I was like, what? I can't afford one. I can't even afford a new car, much less one of those.
We didn't get new cars until like a couple
2 years ago.
Yeah.
2-3 years ago, yeah. And then, I was like, well, and I felt bad for doing this, but I got on their Facebook and I was like, they had like a 5-bedroom, $500,000 house that they had just bought a few months before. And I was like, okay, maybe they're broke because of these purchases, but fact of the matter is I feel like that was stepping on our toes. If you've got enough money to do that, then you can pay full price. Sorry. If you're living 10 times better than the owner of the business, then you don't deserve a discount from that business. That's all I'm saying. That's a certain thing that comes with respect too. And so that comes into respecting ourselves, which is a whole other aspect about respect, right? The whole thing about respecting yourself. So I've got one more, but let's recap. We talked about looking for the good in others. That makes it easy to show respect. I'll get into, I got 2 more things I want to talk about. Next thing we talked about was treating others the way they need to be treated or the way they want to be treated, depending on the situation, right? And then the last one, the third one we talked about so far was the one I was just talking about.
Treating other people.
No. I lost it.
Giving people what they need.
No, that was the second one. Doing what they need. Give respect to get respect, that sort of thing. Which goes into the next thing I want to talk about, which was de-escalation. Respect can go a long way to keeping you out of trouble, and this is the number one thing I've heard from martial artists or lifetime martial artists or people that studied martial arts for long periods of time, was that even people who had a typical tendency to get in a lot of altercations, after about a year or two, the first year or two of martial arts, they stopped getting in altercations. And it wasn't because they were better physically so much at skill, it was that they were more confident and able to, and learned how to show respect in even the tightest situations, and that often stopped them from escalating situations that would have turned worse. I like to tell a story that happened not all that long ago when I had to ask somebody to move a large vehicle, like a huge vehicle, from the back lot because they were blocking all the parking spaces, and they got angry with me, and they were throwing some choice words around, and I just listened and I let them. I didn't respond angrily or any of that. And then because I knew they were angry, when someone's angry, their hypothalamus and their amygdala take over, right, in all their thinking processes. They become very, very emotional, right? The way to counter that is to get them to think about something with their prefrontal cortex. So this could be as simple as asking them, what color is that? Can you tell me where your tongue is? How many ears do you have? Right? Some logical question. So what I did with him is I looked over and I saw the vehicle and I was just like, that is a super nice vehicle. You keep that vehicle really, really clean. I respect that. What do you use on it to keep it waxed like that? Well, there's a logical question. And he just stopped, looked at me, goes, well, yeah, I do put a lot of work into that. I clean it up every couple of weeks, and I let him go on his thing. And after that, he was much kinder. And I was like, it is an awesome vehicle, but we're going to be filling up this parking lot in about half an hour, and I really need these places. There's a spot right up the road here. You could probably park it on the side of the road. Would you mind moving it up there? And then from there on, yeah, sure, I could do that. No problem, right? A little bit of respect goes a long way. He didn't have to treat me with respect. That wasn't what it was about. I used my respect to manipulate a good outcome to this situation. I did not expect him to show me respect. I expected him. Never expect somebody to treat you the way you want to be treated. Expect people to act like the people that they are. Period.
Which may not be
Period.
What you want.
Period. If you expect people to treat you a certain way all the time, you're going to be disappointed a lot. If you expect people to just act as they are going to act, as who they are, you will never be disappointed. Because they're either going to show you how terrible their character is and how much you don't want to spend a lot of time around them, or they're going to show you how awesome their character is. One of those two things, right? Either way, you learn a lot of information about whether to avoid or that person or bring that person closer into your circle, right? And the easiest way to figure that out is be respectful yourself. Be respectful yourself, see how they respond. If they don't respond with reciprocity, they don't respond with respect too, doesn't mean you have to stop being respectful, but then you know what kind of person you're dealing with, and you can expect them to act like that. And through expecting them to act like that, I hate to say this, but you can manipulate them to do almost anything you want. I'm well practiced at this art. I was raised by a narcissist. I learned from an early age. By the time I was 11 or 12 years old, I had learned how to manipulate narcissists. And that's a complex process. If anyone's ever spent a lot of time with a narcissist, you know how hard it can be to manipulate them because they are master manipulators. Masters, right? Learn from the best. But the fact is I learned that you can manipulate narcissists by, one, using their ego against them, and two, staying calm, sticking to the point, or, using respect are often ways that you can throw them off their game. And once they're thrown off their game, they're easy to manipulate. Very, very easy to manipulate. Because it's predictable what they'll do. You can trust them to respond as a narcissist will respond. So you know that I can say this, and they're going to respond in this way and start this circular argument. Once they start this circular argument, I can respond with this, and I can either frustrate them, or I can confuse them, or I can calm them down, right? And you can manipulate them to do all kinds of things. And once you learn those skills, and these skills start with respect, start with your ability to be respectful under any circumstances, right? Let's talk about the military for a second. Actually, let's talk about the old school military, back when they get in your face and yell and spit at you and stuff like that, right? They had a reason for doing that, and the military had lots and lots of documentation as to why they treated people like that. And I get the reason. It was mental toughness training. It was training to teach you how to maintain good, strong character and respectfulness in the face of straight-up rudeness, in the face of straight-up people being mean. It was teaching them how to maintain self-control when someone else is trying their hardest to ruin your self-control. True story. And this is why old school martial arts, we don't teach this way anymore, but in the 60s and 70s, same thing. Instructors used to be really mean to the new students. Really, really mean. Really unfair. Really rude. And they did that to test their new students onto whether they could show good character in the face of someone showing bad character. That was a character skill that the old school military had hundreds of pages of psychological studies and documentation as to why they used to do that, right? Now, I'm not saying it's the right thing or good thing. I'm not trying to say one way or the other whether I believe in it or not. But I understand this concept. Yeah. I do understand this concept, right? Because if you can maintain that level of self-control, then you can manipulate an emotional person. If you can manipulate an emotional person, you can de-escalate a situation quite easily. You can avoid contact more easily, conflict, excuse me. You can be a better arbitrator and, a better moderator in these cases if you can learn to self-control. So the fact of the matter is self-control, emotional control, is one of the best aspects a leader can have. In fact, I would say it's the number one prerequisite to be a good leader, is emotional control and self-control in the face of no matter what kind of person is in front of you and no matter how they're acting. Now, once you learn that level of self-control, you have less need for conflict. You have less need to end up in conflict, right? Now, I'm not saying what the old school military did is the best or right way to teach that concept. I'm just using this as an example to show what that concept was and how it works. There are other ways to teach that concept, though. Many, many other ways to teach that concept. And the best way to teach that concept is to get someone to teach it to themselves, which is exactly what we try to do here. We lead by that example and then try to explain and show why this is the better way to live your life. Because you want to be seen as a good person, a strong person, someone with strong will and strong character. And if you want to be seen that way, then you will learn how to show self-control in these situations. And you will learn how to stay calm when someone else is in your face. That sort of thing, right? Now, that does not mean fight back and be a victim. That's not what I'm saying at all, right? What I'm saying is be strong enough in who you are that you don't have to lose your emotions just because somebody else did. Right? Strong enough in your own character. This has a lot more to do with respect than people think it does.
Yes. And speaking of strong in the face of big emotions,
yep.
Brandy, your comment about toddlers. Toddlers are all the emotions, all at once, all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And so there are actually a lot of things that you can use. Distraction is a huge
so
one for
it's a good one because, like I said, hypothalamus, amygdala, switch that to the prefrontal cortex, and distraction is a great way to do that.
And, of course, toddlers' prefrontal cortex is so much more underdeveloped than adults is.
Right, which means it takes more time. It takes more time for that to shift gears. And so, yes, you'll have to deal with a little bit of a meltdown. And once you can get them to start answering your questions, though, or to start doing basic motor skills, like, hey, can you stack these two things for me? You know, things like that.
Yeah. One of my favorites to do is, especially if they're really upset, blowing bubbles forces you to breathe and calm down. Now, toddlers are not going to want to do that right off the bat. Even preteens who are dealing with big emotions are not going to want to do that. So
but sometimes if you blow bubbles in their face first, then they will
I will sit
want
off
to
the
do
side.
it back to you.
I'll sit off to the side and I'll blow bubbles beside them.
I have to say this. I've done this one to toddlers. In here, I've done this to a toddler having a meltdown. I try to get them to blow bubbles or see the bubbles, and they don't care. They're, you know. And so what I'll do is get like this far from their face, and I'll blow the bubbles right in their face. And when one pops on their face, they go, and they give you a really nasty look. And then sometimes I'll do it again, and be like, do you want to get me back? Do you want to blow bubbles in my face? And I'll make that same expression they're making. Do you want to blow bubbles in my face? And they'll, So I'll hand it to them and let them blow bubbles in my face. And that is one way that I've done in the past.
Yeah, no,
yes.
and it's just, it works all the way up, whether they're toddlers, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yep.
For some of those big emotional breaks that.
Right. Up through the age when bubbles don't do it for them anymore. You know,
I don't know.
bubbles
I get out bubbles to play with the little kids' classes, and the adults are like,
ooh, bubbles. Yeah, everybody likes bubbles.
So I don't
They're
know.
such we know how they work scientifically, but they're so magic to look at, you know. Oh, man. Yes, so that's another one. By the way, there's one more definition of respect we haven't talked about yet, and this is the one that moves farthest away from the concept of courtesy. Paying special attention to something. This is one I like to talk to you about my level 2 tigers. Respect, outside of trust and courtesy, throw those away for a second. Another thing respect can mean is simply to pay special attention to something. As in, I can respect my room by paying special attention to how clean I keep it. This is one of the things I give to level 2 tigers. Thereby respecting myself. Doing the right thing when no one's looking. This is where that comes in, right? Doing the right things where no one's looking.
Or when people are looking.
Or when people are looking. Pay special attention to what needs done. One of my other favorites is I like to talk to level 2 tigers about respecting a threat, which means paying special attention to the thing that is threatening. My favorite game to do this is a game we call catch and kick, where we have this huge pad, we stand across the mat from them, and we toss a ball at them. Their job is to catch the ball and kick the pad before we run them over, essentially. Now, I don't quite run them over, but before we tag them with the pad. So what we do is we throw the ball, and before the ball's even halfway to them, we start running at them with the pad. The concept is they're not always going to be able to catch the ball because it's a high-stress situation. So I get them to talk about respect the threat. The ball is the toy. The ball is play. The bag and us running at you, that's the threat. So if you happen to miss catching the ball, don't look at the ball. Don't chase the ball. Focus on the threat, because that needs your special attention. That threat needs your special attention. And so what I always tell them is the concept is, for coordination, try to catch the ball and kick the pad. But here's where you go wrong. Never look at the ball. Never look at the ball. You can try to catch it and kick the pad, but keep your eyes on the threat. And then I like to bring this up to the age-old thing they used to teach when we were kids. I was talking about, if you lose your toy across the street, should you just focus on that toy and go running after it? Or should you respect the fact that there can be a threat there? Respect the threat and pay special attention to anything threatening in the situation. Pay special attention to your safety. So yes, respect can also simply mean to pay special attention to something or somebody, right? So if I want to show respect to Miss Rose, I can pay special attention to what she says in her body language. So this goes back into looking for the good, but this I think is my favorite definition of respect, because it's kind of all-encompassing.
I like how you mentioned me in the paying attention to
you're
me in
sitting
the
here.
Conversation.
Well, you're sitting here. Yeah, well, you're threatening.
I'm so not.
You're oddly threatening. You are. Everyone I have come to my floor that has seen your kick, I'll say, if you want to learn to kick like Miss Rose, I don't want to get kicked by Miss Rose. Well, this is how you learn to do
and
that.
I haven't even kicked any of those people.
I know. But they see you kick a few times, and they're just like, I don't want to be hit by that. She's an impressive kicker, a very impressive kicker. All right. So, yes. So that is I should have probably led with that. I think that's probably the first definition of respect we should have covered.
Probably.
But I let you start, so that's what we get.
That's all right.
So, quick recap.
We'll
It's easier to show respect to people if you look for the good, right? Look for the best things for you. Treating other people the way they need or want to be treated is another way to show respect. Doing the right thing even when no one's watching, that sort of thing. Paying special attention to people. And we talked about why all these things are important. They allow you to maintain a strong character and confidence in the face of someone else who's just losing their mind. Thank you. Yeah, I needed a translator there. That's in the face of somebody just losing their mind, right? And also, another definition of respect is paying special attention to something. So, this is why respect can be so difficult to teach to kids. This is why respect can be so difficult to talk to about kids, and why I see a lot of older kids and adults who only have one idea of what respect means. Guys, we went over 4 different definitions of respect, and these are all viable, good, valid definitions of respect. So if we're always just saying to our kids, well, you need to respect me, or you need to respect that, or you need to respect your elders, then all they're going to think about in terms of respect is what we actually mean as courtesy. So what you should actually say is, I need you to show me a little bit of respect by using your courtesy. Right? And that way they're learning that respect can be shown through using courtesy, but there's also other aspects to respect.
I need you to show me respect by giving me your focus.
Yeah. You should respect your elders by always looking for the good lessons. So instead of saying you should respect your elders, you should respect your elders by looking for all the good lessons they have to teach you. Even if you don't like them, all the elders generally, there's a lesson somewhere. Everybody you meet, there's a lesson they can have to teach you.
Yeah.
Right? So by reframing that, we're teaching kids that respect can mean a couple of different things, right? I was so excited. I had a couple of level 2 Tigers start the other night, and I gave their intro class. And when I asked them if they knew what respect meant, they gave me 3 awesome answers, right? 3 awesome answers that covered 3 of these definitions. The only one I had to add to them was paying special attention to something, right? So, yeah, those parents are doing something right. Like, they understood doing the right thing whether people are watching or not. They understood looking for the good in others, and they understood treating others well, right? That was their main 3 answers. Now, keep in mind, like I say, don't be that guy. Don't be that person. Well, they got to earn my respect. The only people that should have to earn your respect are people that lost it. People that you gave that respect to, but then lost that respect by being underhanded. But they don't even have to lose that respect. They can simply lose your trust and courtesy without losing your respect, because respect is also paying special attention to. So if someone has been distrustful, they've been dishonest, and they've lost your trust, it doesn't mean they're not deserving of respect, as in paying a special attention to them whenever they're around you, to avoid being manipulated, to avoid being put in a situation. Because, like I said, you should never expect people to be who you want them to be. You should only ever expect people to show you who they really are, or to hide who they really are. So people will tell you a lot about their character when they get emotional, you know.
So when I lose trust in someone, they don't lose my respect, and I'm always going to treat them like a human.
Right.
But they go
Because respect, let me go back to what I said at the beginning, because respect and admiration are 2 different things. Mm-hmm. Respect does not mean admiration. Admiration is one way to show respect. Courtesy is one way to show respect. Treating someone the way they need to be treated is one way to show respect. Trying to do the right thing for yourself or others is showing respect, and paying special attention to something is showing respect. So back to what you were saying. You can go back to that. I just wanted to bring up what we brought up at the beginning. Respect does not equal admiration. Admiration just happens to be one way to show respect.
Yes. But when someone loses my trust, they're not necessarily going to inherently lose my respect, but they're going to go into a category I call being professional.
Right. And you're going to need to
to
learn to pay special attention to them. So they've shown you that they'll lie to you.
Yeah.
So now when they're around, if I have to deal with them, I'm going to pay special attention to them and look for those lies. I'm going to look for those tells, and then if it's me, I don't know how Miss Rose does this, but if it's me, I'm going to use that against you. It's not a good idea to lie to me, because if you've lied to me 3 times, from there on out, I will know when you're lying to me. It takes 3 lies and 2 truths for me to be able to tell if you're lying to me. So, I raised by a narcissist. I had to learn, right? And if you've lied to me 3 times, you can trust that my respect for you is simply limited to paying special attention to when you lie, and I am going to use it against you. Not I might use it against you. I am going to use it to manipulate you, just so you know. Just FYI.
Yeah. So they go into a category I consider being professional. And there's a few of you adults I've talked talked to about this, where if you work with someone or you have a family member or something and you respect them and you're paying attention to them and that you can't trust them, just be professional. Customer service them.
Yeah.
That is the category of respect that people I can't trust go into. People I can't trust to be nice.
And even if
people
they've
I can't
lost your trust and lost a bit of respect, it still doesn't mean you can't treat people like humans.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing is there's this baseline. And one of the last things, I should have started with this one too, you need to understand about respect is whether or not you show respect does not reflect on the other person's character. Doesn't. Whether or not you show respect to anyone else watching does not reflect on the other person's character. Showing respect, being respectful, or using your respect in any form of these 4 or 5 definitions we've covered is about your character. So just because someone else is not respectful or has lost a little respect, if you begin to act extremely disrespectfully, then it's not their character you're hurting. It's your own. So keep that in mind. Keeping your respect is not about the other person. It's about you and your integrity and your character and your strength of character. And those things are important. Like we talked about with the military, the way the military used to do things and this, that, and the other, to teach leaders how to maintain their strong character no matter who or what threat was in front of them. Right? Yep. That's respect. Right? That's respect. So lots of things. We really covered a lot of things in this one.
In a relatively short amount of time.
Relatively short amount of time, yes. So remember that your respect is a reflection of your character, not theirs. Let them shoot themselves in the foot. Just because someone else is being disrespectful doesn't mean that you have to shoot yourself in the foot by being disrespectful back. Like I said, respect doesn't mean courtesy. That's just one way to show respect. Respect doesn't mean admiration. That's just one way to show respect. I also talked about being a parent and certain things like that, treating other people the way they need to be treated, like being a guide. I talked about being an employer. As an employer, a way for me to show respect is to be, yes, tactful, but upfront and honest about mistakes, about things that need to be improved, right? And that is not always going to come across as a courtesy to everybody. Everybody's got a different idea what courtesy is. But if Miss Tasha was not doing something up to a particular standard, this is just pretend, Tasha, if you're watching this, I'm not serious. But if Miss Tasha wasn't doing something up to a particular standard, my way of showing her respect and treating her the way she needs to be treated at that time is to point that out, even if that's uncomfortable for the two of us. Yeah, it's uncomfortable for the boss too, just in case, FYI there. It's uncomfortable for the boss to do this too. But to tactfully point that out, to give a path or multiple paths, to get back up above that standard bar, right? And that is not going to look like courtesy. That is not going to look like admiration. That is going to look like, well, it's hard to do it nicely, but I'm just saying that is going to look like, it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be received well. But I can pay special attention, again, respectfully, to how I present it, pay special attention to how I present it, and present it as nicely as possible, and that's still respect. Because if I don't do that, and show them a level of respect that says, hey, you're having this mistake, but I think we can fix it and get beyond this. If I don't show that level of respect, then this is going to continue to go downhill, and it's not going to end well for anybody. If I ignore it, it's going to continue to go downhill, and it's not going to end well for anybody. I mean, we have staff members now, I'm not going to call them out, that within their first year or two had to have some disciplinary actions.
Probably me. I don't know.
I'm actually talking about somebody else, but had to have some disciplinary. You were the one that actually gave those disciplinary actions. Had to have some disciplinary actions, and I'm thinking of 2 people in particular. I gave the disciplinary actions to one, you gave to the other, and we did this through respect because we respected them, and we wanted them to know where they stood and how to improve. And so the one I did, I was very kind. I gave probably too many chances and ended up having to fire them. The one she did is still with us today and is an awesome, awesome leader because we showed the respect to show them, hey, this isn't quite up to par. Here's how you get up to par. And once you're up to par, giving you the respect to do the job the way you see fit. We give you the tools to do the job. We'll show you best practices to do the job. But to respect my employees means I'm not micromanaging them. I'm teaching them how to do it to a high level, and then giving them freedom from that point to expand on that, or to do it in their own way, or with their own personality.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't expect anyone to do it exactly like I do. That would just come across as insincere. Yeah, disingenuous, insincere. So, yeah, so lots and lots of things about respect there. So, when we're talking to our kids, or when you're thinking about this with yourself, self-respect and other things, it doesn't always look like courtesy, and it doesn't always look like admiration. Those are two ways to show respect. But also doing the right thing, whether you want to or not. Or such as the example of doing the right thing for someone else, even if it doesn't look like courtesy. I was just talking about that from an employee perspective, or a perspective with your kids. You know, that's not always going to look like courtesy, but it's still respect. It's showing them a level of respect and humanity, to give them the belief that they should get the opportunity to learn about their weakness and that they can do it better. That is also showing respect. Respect is also treating people the way they need/want to be treated. At the beginning, always treat people the way they want to be treated. Treat them like a human. Now, if they treat you disrespectfully, that doesn't reflect on your character. It reflects on theirs. Now, if you start to begin to respond back disrespectfully, then it's on your character. So here's the thing. I said I was raised by a narcissist. You know how many public arguments we had when I was a kid? And if this person got mean and angry and hurtful with me, and I got mean and angry and hurtful back, people that heard or were around these fights thought that we were both just awful people. But what I learned about the time I was 11, 12, is that if the other person gets really disrespectful, mean, rude, and I stay respectful and try to stay on the point, and I stay calm, then anyone else around doesn't see me as the problem. They see the other person as the problem, and they see me as dealing with it with a high level of maturity. I've had this happen in public and in front of people. I know once this particular person, a couple times, this isn't just once, a few times, this particular person said a lot of rude and mean things about me to other adults that spread rumors around the school that I went to that were really negative. And there were a couple of times that a couple of these adults that cared about me thought that they should get us together and step in and see if they could fix and correct my behavior. Now, in the first couple of these cases, I would get angry and defensive back, which meant I became rude and disrespectful as well, and then it became you guys both need to find some common ground, and this is how they would treat that. But later, I learned that if someone else was trying to moderate, and the other person was being mean and disrespectful and extremely rude about the situation, and I was very kind and just explanative and articulate, then where they thought they were going to be coming to help me fix my behavior, they'd realize that I was actually responding with a high level of maturity, and then they would turn around and turn on this parental figure that was doing this to me. So this is where I learned to manipulate those situations. Remember that how you act is on you. That's a reflection of your character. So try not to fall into the rule of reciprocity and reciprocate disrespectfulness with disrespectfulness. Don't do that. Let them be disrespectful. That reflects on their character to you. You've learned a lot about their character and everyone else around. If you try to reciprocate that, then you also look like the bad guy, because life is not so easy as good and evil. There's a lot of gray areas. It's a very complex thing. Philosophy is a very complex thing. So, but if you can maintain a calm and respectful nature against someone who is being very disrespectful, back to the way the old school military used to teach it to be done, then you have an extreme amount of self-control, and you have an extreme amount of control over the situation and the outcome of it. And you look like the good guy. You come across looking like the strong, mature person. The other person comes across looking immature and weak charactered. Just something to think about, right?
How do you want to be viewed?
How do you want to be viewed? You can be, your respect, the respect that you treat people with is not about them. It's about you and who you want to be and who you want to be seen as. The respect that they treat you with, that's about them, whether the lack thereof or whatever. And just don't let that mean you have to be disrespectful like them. Just let that be a lesson to the type of person they could be. And then use that to your advantage. Or at least use that to avoid the situation.
Yeah.
Avoid it, right? And the last one, paying special attention to something, right? Paying special attention to people. All right, that's probably enough.
Yeah, that's probably enough.
Enough talky talk. I do kind of feel bad that we started with the ones that sound a lot like admiration and courtesy and didn't get to the real nitty-gritty of respect till later. So, whatever. But we got there. So, y'all have a good weekend.
Be safe.
Be safe. I got to get off here. Until we see you guys again, be the best teammate you can be. I've never been on Instagram, huh? I was off the screen the whole time. Be the best teammate you can be. Ew. And be the best at being you. Ew.
And live.